Yeah, make it come. No, you're good. She's saying we don't want to move. Khalas, you want to be, you know, when I was in high school, all the bad kids were sitting in the back. And I remember when I came from Saudi, I was 12 years old when I came from Saudi to Bahrain. And I was in 6th grade in a private school in Saudi, and then came to what is called Awal I'dadi, 7th grade, to Bahrain, to a public school. And it was a huge culture shock. And I could talk about unreasonable stories for probably an hour. But you just reminded me of something where all the kids that were sitting in the back, I was 12 years old, they were 14, 15, the losers that kept failing every year, and their voice was already broken. They had beards, you know, and we would be so scared of those guys. They're big, you know, they're sitting in the back like this, you know, in the break they would smoke, and it's like when I see those guys, I'd be terrified, you know. So that's why bad memories from people sitting in the back, that's all. So a couple of sort of things I wanted to talk about. There is a slight change in the program. We had a speaker planned at 1 p.m., Lucia from Peru. She's doing some amazing work in the social innovation space. But her father passed away yesterday. Rahmatullah alayh. Yeah, poor thing. So she was devastated. So we scrambled to find her a plane this morning at I think 6 o'clock in the morning. We found a plane for her. She's going through Lufthansa, and I don't know, it's going to take her a day and a half to get back to Peru and to go to the family. So unfortunately, we don't have her, and our prayers, of course, are with her and her family. So it's a bit of a shock. This has never happened at a summit before. So at 1 p.m., we would have had Lucia, but what we're going to do is we're going to do an implementation panel, which I think will be just as useful. We're just going to talk about the ideas and how we're going to implement these ideas that we got over the last couple of days. So I'm going to be here talking about some things that I wanted to share with you. Then we have Sikiyama-san will be speaking about this amazing stuff he's doing in Japan. Really, really exciting stuff that he's doing. Then we're going to have a panel discussion. Then we'll have a break and the breakout sessions. Like I said, 3 breakout sessions. If you've not registered, you can still register before the break. I think you can still register there, decide what to do, which one of those. All 3 breakouts are going to be amazing, so I know it's going to be a tough choice. I'll be going in and out of those things. 1 p.m. is going to be the implementation panel, and we're going to try and have lunch probably by about 1 or 1:30 to 1:45 p.m., and then we'll be done. I'm curious, who attended, if this is your first summit, put up your hand. First summit, okay, the majority, first summit. Second, anyone attend 2 summits? Okay, anyone attend 3 summits? Put up your hand 3 if you attended 3 summits. Well done, give yourselves a clap if you've done 3 summits. Good job, guys, well done. You're the superstar unreasonable thinkers. So a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Someone mentioned something yesterday when I was walking in the hall, and I don't know if this person is here, and they said, you know, Suhail, thinking unreasonably can get you fired sometimes. And I think this is an important point because it's easy for us entrepreneurs to be gung-ho. I'm an entrepreneur, I can, you know, so it's easy for us to have this attitude. But what if you want to be an unreasonable thinker and you're part of a bigger organization? And I don't want to give that silly and naive advice to say quit and, you know, no, I don't think so. I think, though I love being an entrepreneur, I really, really do, and I would never want to do anything else, I have to admit, I think entrepreneurship, there's always that one person who didn't silence their phone. I have to admit, I think entrepreneurship is overrated. People talk about entrepreneurship, but even when the government tries to push entrepreneurship, I don't think you need to push entrepreneurship. I think you need to move obstacles to entrepreneurship. But not everyone's cut out for it, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I think if you don't have a business idea, don't feel pressured to somehow need to become an entrepreneur or whatever it is. You can be a change maker while having a job. You can be a change maker in your organization. So to answer the question that this guy said is, I might get fired if I become unreasonable. I want to share a story with you. So we all know what happened in 2011. We had a very painful crisis. And so there was different people coming to Bahrain trying to help Bahrain. One of the people, there was a delegation that came from South Africa. And when they came to Bahrain, they said, look, there's this guy called Sahil. Why don't you meet him? He's trying to do all kinds of reconciliation work. So I had the delegation come to my office. This is before I started the Bahrain Foundation for Dialogue. And one of the people there was Rolf Mayer. Rolf Mayer was a former minister in the apartheid government. He was one of the key architects in helping transform South Africa into a democracy. He's a legend. And I didn't know who he was at the time. Later, I read about him in books and met him again in South Africa. But I asked him one question. I said, what advice do you have for me? He said, become an activist. And that kind of resonated. And it took me a long time to understand what he meant by that. Become an activist, he said. And one of the things I learned subsequently, that activism, and I mentioned it in my talk yesterday, you plan ahead, years ahead, decades ahead. And it's really many steps, small steps, until you make a change, and then you pass the torch to someone else, and they make a change. Does that make sense? So, for the person that has a corporate job, my advice to you is become an activist within the company. You can. Don't be unreasonable to the point that you get yourself fired. But why not? If they say no the first time, try again. Try a different angle. Are you trying? Some people, they have a victim mentality. That's the worst thing. I've heard people say, I told them this and they said no. I tried to do this, the management said no. My boss said no. My boss said no. Hold on, okay. You're kind of sounding like a victim a little bit here, Did you sell this well? Did you try to understand before being understood? Have you tried once one way, the second time? Have you presented enough evidence? Did you say, here's what XYZ company is doing in Denmark, they've implemented this, and their profits went up by 17.5%. I think if we do this in our company, we might be able to do the same, versus I'll just be unreasonable, oh, they didn't listen to me, oh, I might get fired. Does that make sense? Yeah? So become an activist within the organization, become a smart activist. And also, fundamentally, within a larger organization, people will listen to people that perform. And I am making the assumption that you are already a top performer in your organization. Because if you're a poor performer and being unreasonable, you're definitely going to be fired. And I'd be the first to fire you if you worked for me and tried to be unreasonable and were a poor performer. Does that make sense? Yeah? If you're in an organization, I always worked, I only worked for a few years before working for myself, but I was the best. I was the top employee in my department by a margin, and they knew it. Yeah? Be the top performer in your organization. When you want to make a change, they will listen to you. And if they don't listen to you, you go home, you plan again. What can I do? What is the best way to approach it? This person kind of didn't like it. That person liked it. I need to convince so-and-so. What method can I use? And it might take you a month. It might take you 3 years. It might take you 5 years. Become an activist and enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. During that, challenge yourself. Does that make sense? Another thing I want to comment on. Yesterday, when Victor spoke, one of the young people in the audience asked him, what can we do to change society? What can the rest of us do? And I have some comments on that. I would say you need to ask yourself 3 questions. Question number 1, what is the outcome I want? When it comes to on a societal level or my organizational level, what is the outcome that I want, right? Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. So you begin with the end in mind. Ask yourself question number 1, what is the outcome that I want? Number 2, what is my role in this outcome? What is my role? So again, wearing my other hat as a reconciliation activist, when we started the Bahrain Foundation for Dialogue and we wanted to focus on social dialogue and civil reconciliation in Bahrain, we asked ourselves, what is the outcome that we want? And then what is our role? There's different types of activism. There's the people that go on the streets, there's the people that do it online, there's the people that are... We've found that our role is relationship building. We build relationships. We have a no judgment policy. This is the best way for us to achieve the outcome that we want, okay? Question number 1, what is the outcome that I want? 2, what is my role in the outcome, in achieving this outcome? Yeah? Number 3 is, what am I willing to sacrifice? You need to ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice? Whether you're, let's call it a corporate activist, a social activist, a political activist, an environmental activist, whatever it is, what am I willing to sacrifice? As in Bahrain, some people see me as a bit of a troublemaker, right? I'm a little bit kind of proud of that, okay? And I like to push the envelope a little bit. And we don't cross red lines, but we skirt next to the red lines a little bit. We try to push the red lines a little bit further, right? But I know what kind of risk I want to take. What am I willing to sacrifice, right? Victor yesterday talked about sacrificing his life, or risking his life. He didn't sacrifice his life, at least not yet, but he risked his life, right? And when the rebels came and took over where they lived, he went at night, snuck in to try and protect his charcoal. He needed to burn the charcoal to make a living, so he went and he risked his life. That's something he was willing to do, right? I don't know whether consciously or subconsciously, the question was asked, what am I willing to sacrifice? Many people are willing to sacrifice their lives. Personally speaking, I'm not. Okay? Ask yourself, and then once you've answered those three questions, you have a little bit of clarity and can move forward. Okay? I wanted to sort of mention that. Another thing, going back to something that Victor touched on, and I'm going to quote Irish politician Edmund Burke. He said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." And today we would say it slightly differently, we would say good people. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. So if you want to prevent evil, whatever way you see evil is, what you cannot do is nothing. And everybody's responsibility is to improve this country or whichever country you come from. It is your responsibility to improve it, even if it's just 0.00001%. By seeing the trash on the street, put it in the bin. You've already done something. You've done something. And it's our responsibility, all of us, to do something. Because we only have that one life. And when we're asked in the afterlife, when the Almighty we're presented, and we're asked, what did you do? Do you want to say, I did nothing? It is your responsibility to do something. So, another thing so I'm just ranting on some of the things that we encountered yesterday. So what I find interesting in this kind of summit is that we really focus on bringing a wide variety of people, right? So it's about innovation from a narrow perspective, but it's about unreasonable thinking from a wide perspective. And we make a point of bringing varied people. And what I think is interesting is some people gave me the feedback yesterday saying, you know, I love that speaker. I kind of didn't like that. And then the next person gives me the exact opposite feedback. Said, yeah, I thought that person was amazing. This person wasn't so. And I think this is good for us. And I'd like you I want to sort of also send this message. Don't judge on the speaker's speaking ability. Focus on the message and the story. And we oftentimes do not bring professional speakers. We make a point of not bringing professional speakers. We need to make a point of bringing people that have good stories and a good message. So this is something I thought I would wanted to mention. A couple of other takeaways from some of the speakers. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, who is a big shot politician in India, for me one of the biggest takeaways was the story of the nano car. The cheapest car, you know, it's a car that's at the price almost of a motorcycle. And I never heard this before. He said it's a marketing failure, not a sort of production failure or a product failure. He said when you're marketing something as the cheapest vehicle in a country that doesn't, you know, that wants to move away from being perceived as cheap, that's the failure of that. So I thought that was very, very interesting. And so your marketing needs to be just as good as the actual product that you have. Victor, there's so many lessons from Victor. What I liked, what he said among the many other things, is to see the humanity in everyone. I think this is really, really important in the work that we do in the foundation. We try and do that. It's hard to do. It's really, really hard to do, especially when someone does cruel things. And to look beyond that and to see the humanity in everyone, because sometimes good people do really, really bad things. So I thought that was very powerful. Sam al-Jishi, I thought there were some great takeaways from him. One of the things he said is, I always like to play. So his attitude towards work is kind of play, and he's always curious. Unreasonable thinkers and successful people, change makers, are always curious. Saturday morning we had brunch with some of the speakers, And someone asked me about the Falak story, so I started telling them about Falak and so on. And it was John, and he kept asking, but what about this? What about? And you can tell that this guy is unreasonable because he's curious. Curious. Yeah? Unreasonable people are curious. They like to play. Samarajishi likes to play. I like what he said about the importance of R&D. Research and development is fundamental. I used to own a 23-minute weight loss and body transformation center called the Dream Body Center. The Dream Body Center is a huge dream that failed. We were going to build a $100 million business. We were going to open 523 locations around the world. We were so excited, but unfortunately, it all didn't work out. But we actually had an R&D center. We had a small place in Manama that we rented, a small shutter, and we were developing new classes in that. We had a fantastic fitness leader who's very creative, and he's kind of, he's fit and he does dance moves and whatever it is. His role was to create 23-minute unique classes that we could, my mission to him was, I told him, in those days Zumba was very popular. I told him, I want you to do a class that will kill Zumba, and I want you to do it in 23 minutes. And he would go 3 times a week to this R&D center and develop these classes, and we'd do training there and so on. So even a service that has absolutely no product can still do research and development. So my message is really take R&D very, very seriously. Again, what I liked with Samar al-Jishi, his long-term thinking and his vision. What I thought was interesting from Jem Tariq, the last speaker from Unilever, a bit long the talk, but there was, I think, a key message here. Unilever, multi-billion-dollar company, maybe hundreds of thousands or maybe tens of thousands of employees around the world, and they're worried about disruption. It keeps them up at night. So no one is safe. No one is safe. And I bet you even the Googles of this world don't feel safe, are worried about disruption. So these are some of the messages that I thought were very good, and I wanted to leave you guys with. So now we will move on to our next speaker, who came here all the way from Japan, a brilliant scientist, inventor, and entrepreneur. Kazuhide Sekiyama is the founder of a Japanese biotech startup that takes artificial silk out of the lab and into clothes and car parts. The company was first spun out of the Institute for Advanced Biosciences in Keio University in 2007 by Sekiyama-san, who was a graduate student there. Spiber, the company is called Spiber, which is spider and fiber combined. Spiber is recreating the DNA designs of spiders in order to produce an artificial material that does not depend on petroleum like other synthetic fibers such as polyester and nylon. Please welcome Sekiyama-san.
Okay, thank you very much. And it's a great honor to be here. And I would like to say thank you for Suhail Agosebi and his team and his family, especially Fahad. And I'm very happy and appreciate your kindness and hospitality, and I'm really happy to be here in Bahrain. And today I would like to talk about the proteins, and we can see the many wonderful protein materials in nature, and we are trying to master the protein as the industrial material. Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to show our video. So please look at this. Whoops. Sorry. Oops. the sound. Okay, sorry. Wait a moment, please. Whoops. Whoops. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Throughout history, innovations in materials have pushed our civilization forward. We are inspired by the slender threads that spiders use to build their intricate webs. These silks are made up of proteins from an entirely biological process, yet they possess astonishing properties that vastly outperform man-made materials. They are just one example of the incredible variety of naturally occurring proteins, materials that have been refined and perfected through 3.8 billion years of evolution. Our team has extensively studied the diverse genetic designs found in nature. We've developed advanced methods to create new, tailor-made protein materials designed at the molecular level. For the first time in history, we are harnessing the power of evolution in order to create high-performance, sustainable, and exciting protein materials. This has endless applications and unlimited potential. Dawn of a new era. This creative endeavor could transform not only manufacturing, but our entire society. We have vision, drive, and determination. The revolution starts now.
Thank you. We are collaborating with North Face, you know, the world's biggest the apparel, outdoor apparel manufacturer. And first, I'd like to talk about the proteins. However, today's keyword is of my talk is new combination. New combinations means that, as the Joseph Schumpeter said, the key and core of the innovation is new combination, the realization of new combinations. And every new idea is combination of existing knowledge, and the seeds of innovation or breakthroughs often exist and the intersection which combines knowledge of completely different fields. And proteins are the combination of the amino acids, actually. And these amino acids connect together into a long chain and then fold back on itself. And proteins create a network with other proteins and make the fibers or hairs or muscles or hormones, antibodies. And proteins has extensively wide variety of types of materials. And this diversity comes from the difference from difference of combination of amino acids. And to master the protein as an industrial material, we have to combine many different technologies and disciplines. And I will tell the detail later. But we need the new combination to make some new innovations and disruptions. And this is my lab in Yamagata, the northern part of Japan. And I graduated the Keio University, and I learned here. And this institute is Institute for Advanced Biosciences, and established in 2001 by the Professor Masaru Tomita. He is amazingly has 3 PhDs, and one is computer science, and one is engineering, and one is molecular biology. And so he is a kind of a very interdisciplinary guy. And so the culture of this institute is kind of like that, and very interdisciplinary and cross-sectionality culture. And I met him for the first time when I was a high school student, and I was deeply impressed by his vision and passion. And he says the IT and bio combination, that is we call the bioinformatics, is key technology to solve the global problem, like the climate change, or food, or water, or energy. So I decided to go to his lab at that time. And he took up the post of external director of Spiber since last April. And the Spiber is the second company that launched from this institute. And 7 startups launched from this institute. And one is the HMT in 2003. And this is already listed on the Tokyo Exchange Market Mothers in 2013. And we started Spiber in 2007, and many startups launched from this institute. And I started my research with him, and we co-founded Spiber in 2007. But actually, we started this research in 2004. And now we have more than 200 employees and members, and from I think 10 or 11 countries. And we are doing the R&D at the R&D base in Yamagata. And we already raised about 220 million US dollars. And also we had the many governmental the subsidies or grant from many ministry. And I think the total amount of the grant that I already got is around 50 million US dollars. And also we selected as the J-Startup. J-Startup is kind of most innovative and cutting-edge startup in Japan. and the Japanese government select our company. And also, we selected as the Disrupt 100, and Spyver came in the first place here. And so, yeah. And we are based in Tsuruoka, and these two buildings are our headquarters and our fermentation pilot plant. And this is a very local area in Japan, but so look at the rice field. So, and we are, actually I was born in Tokyo, but I moved to there when I was, I entered the university, and because I really want to go to this institute. And okay, so let's talk about protein and why the protein is so wonderful and so a special material. I would like to talk about that. And these 20 amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and they connect together into a long chain and then fold back itself, and sometimes as many as 2 or 3 thousands in length. And protein creates a network with other proteins and make the structure like spider silk and hair, cashmere and wool and muscles and something like that. And spider silk are known as the toughest fiber in nature and in the world, and even tougher than the aramid fiber. The aramid fiber is used in the violet blue vest, so very tough fiber, but even tougher than the Kevlar. And spider silk has a very interesting structure, and the block of amino acids, about 100 in length, connect together in long repetitive sequence, the 20 or 30 repeats. And so let's consider how many possible designs we could create from this just 100 amino acid structure. Even if we just look at on the block of spider silk protein, just 100 amino acid in length, since there are 20 types of amino acids, that means the total design combinations are 20 to the 100th power. So it's basically infinite. And I would like to compare it with this number, 10 to the 80th power. And this is the number, the estimated total number of atoms in the universe, not stars, atoms. So this is, so you can see this number is so big. And that means, so I believe that there are so many amazing yet undiscovered materials in this almost infinity combinations. Because, and by the way, the evolution process in nature is occurring at the really slow pace and so steady. And, and our goal is master the proteins as industry materials to accelerate the evolution process using our cutting edge and synthetic biology based technologies. And we make our protein through a fermentation process and using microbes. And microbes eat sugar or starch as the energy, as their feed. And so we can use the agricultural feedstocks for the raw material of our proteins. And we can, you know, the genes is the blueprint of the proteins. We can see the information and the information of the combination of amino acids in the DNA, and we called the blueprint genes. And we can change the genes, and when we introduced to microbes these genes, the synthetic genes, the microbes can make the proteins of the blueprint. And we use the raw material. We use the sugar or the starch as a raw material for our fermentation process. So we don't need, we don't rely on the petroleum or animal as our raw material. And we can, so we can make the very types of material we can make through the one process and one plant. That is a so special thing that the protein has. And next, I'd like to show our facilities in Tsuruoka. And this is the DNA synthesizing robot that we make. And we can synthesize the designed DNA genes with this our machine. And I think the throughput is 360 genes per year we can make. And these are the robot in our lab. And this is a small-scale fermentation process. And also, we make these machines too. And we design the machines, and we are testing the fermentation conditions with this system. And this is the pilot-scale fermentation plant in Tsuruoka. And this is the spinning machine. And now we are constructing the first commercial-scale fermentation plant in Thailand. And this is, that is 100 times bigger than this pilot-scale plant. And why Thailand? The Thailand is the largest sugar producer in the world and the second largest sugar exporter in the world. So, and our primary focus and the target is the apparel and automotive industry. So, and in Thailand, this industry very accumulated. So we decided to construct the first plant in Thailand. And when we produced the synthetic spider silk or synthetic cashmere, we have to perform many types of research theme. And there are many technological layers. And the first layer is molecular design. So we have to design the amino acid sequence or gene sequence first. And this technology needs the IT or computer science or bioinformatics or AI or robotics to synthesize the synthetic genes. And the next step is the host design. The host is means the microbes. And also we are designing the microbes because we have to optimize the host, the microbes, to the amino acid sequence. And we need the technique of synthetic biology or molecular biology to do this research. And the next step is fermentation. And fermentation is a very sensitive process. So we have to optimize the many fermentation conditions, like the raw materials and temperature, pH, or something. And the next step is refining process. And we need the organic chemistry's knowledge. And the next step is materializing. And we, when we make the protein, we make into the protein into fiber with our spinning technology. And we need the polymer science or rheology knowledge or skills to perform this process. And finally, we are making the composite material for the automotive industry. We combine our material to the carbon reinforced plastics or the urethane materials. So we have to optimize the amino acid sequence to connect to the matrix resins or elastomers. So, and also we have to feedback, and we have to get the perfect amino acid sequence and gene sequence, and then we can produce the proteins at the really low cost, and we can get the really high performance materials. And we've been working on this R&D over 14 years, and we already synthesized and evaluated more than 12,000 designs of genes, and the latest generation of the gene is the 15th generation. And we could get the really good genes that have very good performance and very high productivity of in the fermentation process. And the progress about the productivity is like 10,000 fold, and we achieve the 200,000 of cost reduction. And we are accumulating the many data from all of these technological processes, and we combine these data to the database, and we can easily analyze the relationship to the amino acid sequence to the mechanical properties or the productivity in the microbes. And our long-term business model is licensing, and we are planning to license our extensive IPs to the sugar or starch or chemical manufacturers. And the first commercial plant that I mentioned was the first mother plant, and we would like to make the second mother plant in maybe US, but the next step, and we have to change the business model to the licensing model. And the IP is the genes or strains or protocol. That is all the data or kind of software. Yeah. And next, I would like to talk why I started this project and research. And my fundamental motivation is I really want to contribute to the peace and world peace. And I really want to eliminate the war or conflicts or terrors. And when I was a high school student, I watched the documentary program of conflict of all over the world, and like Uganda or Rwanda, Kosovo, and it's impossible to imagine the heartache of the victims, but I suffered heartache watching that program at that time. And I really think I would like to contribute to solve that problem. And I determined to do something for the world peace. And that's what is the fundamental cause of war, and I thought about that in the when I was a high school student, and finally got to the answer, and that is the conflict of the humanity's desire or humanity's consumption, but our resources is limited. And as you know, the globally consumption is growing rapidly, and however, the natural resources are limited, unfortunately. And this is the global fiber consumption, and as you see, this doubles every 20 years, and we can see the growth through this picture and a figure, and majority of the consumption will be petroleum-based material, such as nylon or polyester in 2015. So we would like to replace the 15 to 20% of this fiber consumption. And so the market size will be really huge. And the apparel and auto sector is our primary targets, because the CO2 emissions or environmental burden from these industrial sectors are very big. And we already announced the prototype with the North Face, and this is Moonpaka, and we announced this prototype 2015. And this is the latest version of this. And also, this is, we like to alternate the nylon or polyester, kind of the petrochemical-based materials. And also, we are making the cashmere-like materials for apparel. And I brought the latest sample, so if you can touch, you can feel this later. And also, we are making the car parts, auto parts, and the Japanese government supports our project very much. And these are the latest, the samples of the automotive, for automotive applications. And also aerospace, and we are doing kind of aerospace parts with JAXA, and also developing the tire. This is a composite material with rubbers, and also medical applications. And we are leading over 40 joint R&D projects in total. And it is inevitable that humanity must shift from the society of consumption to the society of circulation. And we believe that the material, protein material, can be one key solution to achieve that. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Please join me, Sekiyama-san.
Thank you.
Please. First of all, I'd like to comment to the audience about the lighting. It might seem random, but we do this on purpose to keep you awake. It's part of the process. So we're not screwing up. It's a plan. At exactly a certain time, the lights turn off and then back on again. Sekiyama-san, I mean, there is no words to describe how impressive you are and how impressive the work you are doing is. You remind me of Thomas Edison, you know, he had his Menlo Park research lab, and he was just doing some amazing things. So congratulations on being an unreasonable thinker and being such an inventive person.
Thank you.
I have so many questions for you. I won't be able to ask all of them, but I'll ask some of the quick questions and then give the opportunity to people to ask you. You put in the number of, I think it was 80 to the power, what was it? 100 to the power 20, I forget what it was, the first number.
The 20 to the 100th power.
How many zeros is that?
100. 100.
So my question is, you've done 1,200 designs. Mm-hmm. How do you know when to quit on a project? Because you're doing so many things, you're trying different combinations. Yeah. When do you tell yourself, no, we'll keep trying, we'll keep trying, we'll keep trying, and when do you know it's time to stop? Do you have a time frame? Mm-hmm. Do you have a process? How does that work?
I think the endless process.
It's endless process.
Endless. So because the search field is basically infinite. So maybe like this is a very good material, and the productivity is very high in the fermentation process. However, this is not yet this is not perfect yet.
But there must have been many failures to come to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you keep failing and failing and failing until you succeed. Is that it, basically?
Yeah.
You don't pull the plug on any specific project that you're doing within this whole field. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think there is no perfect material.
Right.
So always improving.
Is it okay if we pass this around with the audience?
Sure.
Yeah? You're not worried someone will take it? Is it okay?
I know.
Can I ask one of the team members to just turn this around? Don't keep it, guys. Put it back inside. Pass it to the person. So this is this the cashmere? The
Cashmere-like.
No, I know.
Yeah,
Cashmere-like.
Yeah.
So it
100%.
feels almost exactly like cashmere, but this is synthetic spider silk that is probably going to destroy the cashmere industry in the next few years, unfortunately or fortunately.
And also, excuse me.
Sorry.
I have the merino wool. This is natural, and please compare the. Yeah.
Okay, and put them back in the correct box as well, the correct jar. So, you know, I love the idea of creating sustainable materials. You talked about cycling versus consumerism and so on. My question to you is this. Your feedstock is sugar. So how many tons of sugar to create one ton of silk?
I think the 7 times.
7 times.
Yeah.
So 7 kilos or whatever of sugar will create 1 kilo of.
Yeah.
So now my question to you is, the feedstock process, is that sustainable? Is there enough land to plant sugar on? Is the sugar plantation process sustainable? Is it organic? Is the land being reused, or is it being dried out? You see what I'm saying? So sometimes people think something's sustainable, but when you look at one part of the process, it's not. The sugar plants, are they sustainable or not? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that depends on the scale.
Right.
Yeah, and just now we are constructing the first commercial plant in Thailand.
Yeah.
But that scale is really small actually.
Okay.
Compared with the nylon or polyester.
Right.
Yeah, because the scale is about the several hundreds of tons per year.
Per year.
But the nylon is nylon's scale is I think 400 or 500 million tons of per year.
Globally or just Thailand?
Globally. And polyester is 6,000 millions.
6 billion.
Yeah, 6 billion?
6,000 million is a billion. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So the 10 times of nylon. So very big. But so now it's no problem.
Okay.
But if we make this our material at the scale of nylon or polyester, that is maybe we will use the, I think, 20 or 30% of the sugar, total sugar
consumption, production in
production.
the world.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
and your suppliers, do you know if they're using sustainable methods in their sugar plantations or not? Is this something? Are you having that conversation with them, or does that conversation come at a later stage?
Yeah, but so that is our next step. But we would like to develop the next production system of cellulose or sugar with algae, using the seawater or something.
Okay.
So no conflict to the existing agricultural fields. So
fantastic, fantastic. And you use 7 layers of technology to create the silk at the end project. So several layers, and each layer is a completely different discipline of science.
Yeah.
How do you get this all together? I mean, aren't you I mean, do you ever sleep? Because there must be so much work trying to make that all work. How can you achieve that?
So it takes 14 years.
Okay.
So
we talked about long-term planning. So this is a 14-year process. Yeah. Okay.
So this is difficult to master these all of the.
So since 2004, you've been playing around.
Yeah,
with
a few years.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, we're going to go a little bit over time because I have 2 more questions because I'm so curious, and then we'll give the chance. So we'll go over time, but because I'm in charge, I can go over time. I don't like when someone else goes over time. I'm okay when I go over time. So you said you have 40 R&D projects, joint R&D project. How do you project manage 40 different R&D processes? How do you project manage that?
Yeah.
Or is there a lot of independence in each one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
we have many good project managers.
Okay.
Yeah. And Inspire.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you've got some really smart people working for you. Yeah. Some Al-Ghusaybi's working for you. Yes.
Yeah. Like him.
My last question is, you said you wanted to contribute to world peace. So how do you link the work that you are doing today with contributing to ending conflict in the future? In your head, do you see a link, or do you know that you want to get there, but you don't see the link just yet? So you said you want to contribute to world peace. Today you're working in the synthetic proteins field. I don't see a link between the two. Do you see a link how this will contribute, or do you know that you want to do it but you're not sure how yet?
Okay, yeah. I see the link, of course.
See it. Okay.
Yeah, and because our material, of course, can contribute to the climate change.
Okay.
Yeah. And the climate change causes the many big issues like food or water, and that is linked to the conflicts or war. I think
Sekiyama-san, when they give you the Nobel Peace Prize, can you come again here and speak after you get the Nobel Peace Prize?
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, go on, you can clap. So people are not sure whether they should clap. Go on, clap.
Thank you.
So any questions for Sekiyama-san? We'll have a question here in the front, Samar, if we can give the mic here, and then we have a gentleman in the back. And if we can make it quick, we're a little bit over time. If we can make it a quick question, please.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much. And I think Japan is really a great developing society when it comes specifically, from my experience, to the waste management. And this is actually my question. How sustainable is your product? What will happen after it's used? Is it biodegradable, or what is the components? What will be derived afterwards from usage of your product or material?
Is the question clear?
Yeah, I think so. Our protein is completely same as the natural proteins. The difference is just the microbes make that. So our sequence is artificial, but that is a genuine protein. So we can eat, of course, biodegradable, and the cellulose and the protein is the very core and key material in the natural ecosystem. So we are thinking we have to do more. We have to change our industrial materials for more sustainable and renewable. So maybe the cellulose and proteins are a good option. So, but the cellulose is easy to use in the industry, like paper, woods, or cotton. But the protein is very difficult to master yet.
So in short, to answer your question, once you're done with the jacket, you eat it. And it's you know, it's perfectly fine. One question over there, and then anyone has any more questions, they can always see Sikiyama online, Sikiyama-san offline. He'd be happy to answer some questions. Yes, please.
Great presentation. Presentation and very interesting. I have a quick question about, from the marketing perspective, you're not organic, but you're not artificial. You're kind of in this weird balance between the two. Have you looked at exploiting that? And as we talked about with the car earlier, kind of using that as an advantage?
Sorry.
So from the marketing perspective, because you can't use the word organic, and what was the other word you used? It's not organic, or it's
artificial.
It's not artificial. What is the word you're using, or how are you marketing this material? In your marketing, what are you telling people?
Of our material?
Yes.
The just protein-based material.
Protein-based material.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but this is a so new material, so there is no definition in the.
Right. Okay.
So we just call our material protein-based material.
Okay.
But yeah, but this is natural, but synthetic, but natural, but artificial, but natural.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
We have a gentleman in the back. That will be our last question. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay, I just Googled. It takes 1,500 to 2,000 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram of sugar. I mean, given the water shortage and the water crisis we have in various parts of the world, including where we are sitting, how sustainable is that?
To make sugar?
Yeah, sugar requires 1,500 to 2,000 liters of water.
Yes. So, in the long-term vision, we would like to develop the alternative cellulose producing system with algae using seawater. So we would like to perform that process in the sea or the desert using the seawater. And now the sugar producing process needs a lot of water, so we have to develop the new technology in the future. Yeah.
So my friend Khalid over there insists on, he's always a pain in the backside, this guy. Go and ask your question, Khalid.
Sorry about that. But
Go
just
on.
a very quick question. Now, since you're doing a lot of recycling, you know, instead of for its consumption, now, how much of nanotechnology are you using in your developments, if any?
Nanotechnology.
Nanotech, we are making the electrospinning process. That is a kind of nanotech. And we can make the, like, suede, you know, suede, the kind of leather feeling material using that process. And also, we are considering to make the waterproof and breathable textile. And I think we will use the nanofibers, to make it.
Thank you for your amazing talk. Thank you for the amazing work that you're doing and your contribution to humanity. And we'll make a promise for you, take a promise from you to come back in a few more years and then tell us what you're up to again. Yeah, deal?
Yeah, of course.
Good, and we have a small token of appreciation for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No, it's all right. Yes, the photographer wants us to be here. Small gift for you to put in your office. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we now have a panel discussion. And as I mentioned, we were supposed to have Lucia Valencia Dongo with us on this panel discussion. So unfortunately, she could not make it. So we're going to have a slightly smaller panel. But I think this would be acceptable. We'll still make it interesting. So may I ask Victor to come back up here, please? You're with us on this. You look surprised. We told you that there's going to be a panel here. Good. Have a seat, sir. And Ahmed, I believe you're joining us as well. Give a big hand for Ahmed Janahi from Tamkeen as well. Thank you. Good to see you, sir. And actually, Sikiyama-san, would you mind joining us again on this panel? Please come up here. Yeah, go on, give him another clap. And Maniza, why don't you join us as well? Mark will join us. Why don't we have Mark join us? Okay, Mark Warman, come up here, young man. Good to see you. Thank you for your last minute contribution. Please have a seat. So there's a couple of people that have not been introduced properly. Mark, would you do a quick intro for yourself, please? I think you can do it better than I can. I think you need to press a button on that. Try another one.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
There we go, that's much better. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Mark Warman, and actually I was born in Bahrain, and I was here through till 1997 when I went back to the UK for 10 years for education, employment, that side of things. In 2007 I moved back here and set up East Innovations as a digital marketing agency, and we worked with the Ministry of Culture, the EDB, Porsche Center Bahrain, Audi, and various other regional companies as well. Ran that for 10 years, and then more recently in 2016 switched over to, rather than providing digital marketing services, providing knowledge-based consultancy. So I'll go into companies and help them to adapt to the digital world that we're all we're all having to transform to now.
Great, thank you. And Ahmed, if you can give us a brief intro about yourself. And Sikiyama-san, can you grab this mic as well? There's just keep that for you guys here as well to share. Good, all right.
Okay, so good morning everybody. I'm Ahmed Janahi from Tamkeen, Head of Community Engagement and Market Engagement generally. So I won't give much brief about myself. I'll talk about Tamkeen like in a line. So I think most of you know Tamkeen. Tamkeen is the National Labor Fund of Bahrain. What we do is, as the name suggests, we're here to enable the private sector to become the engine of the economy. At the same time, we're here to support the individuals, the Bahraini individuals, as well to become the leaders of that sector. We provide different types of support, whether that's grants, financing, training support, subsidizing of salaries, etc. And we'll try to shed light today in this panel, hopefully, on how can we support with the unreasonable side of work that the companies can do.
Can I just say, guys, this summit is probably supported 80% by Tamkeen. In fact, it's called the Falak Unreasonable Thinking Summit in association with Tamkeen. And every time we have a hiccup here or there with Tamkeen, I pick up the phone and call Ahmed. He makes himself available 24/7, supporting us. So he's actually one of the unreasonable people that is behind the success of the Unreasonable Summit. Can we give him a big clap in Tamkeen? A big clap. Thank you, sir. لا والله. الحق يقال يعني really Tamkeen has been making this possible. And before I start asking my first questions, tell us about Startup Bahrain Week. What's going on? What are some of the other things people can look forward to?
So in the past 2 years or 3 years, Bahrain has been doing a lot in the space of entrepreneurship and technology in general. So 2 years ago, Bahrain started something called the Tech Week, which takes place at the end of September of every year, September, October. The purpose of that is to shed light on the work that's happening in the ICT sector specifically and the technologies that are happening. And that all started with Amazon Web Services coming to the country. Then last year we started something new, which is basically Startup Bahrain Week. Startup Bahrain Community was established about 3 years ago. The purpose of that is basically to create a society, a community kind of movement where the startups can talk about their challenges, where they can speak to the government about the things that they need, the policies that could support them. And having that week to celebrate the things that are happening in the country, to shed light more, to focus on their needs and what are the things that that can help them. So it started last year, beginning of March. This is the second year it happens. This year, I think we have over 16 events happening during 1 week, and that's between the 3rd till the 10th of March. One more thing that's going to happen in Bahrain, inshallah, in the coming period of time, in the coming month, which is the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. That's happening, inshallah, on the 15th of April. Everybody in this room is, of course, invited to participate in that session. The Congress is kind of the biggest gathering of entrepreneurs around the world to talk about many topics, such as some of the topics that were discussed actually throughout the summit. I was sitting yesterday during the opening session, I was like, this should have been part of that as well. Because having over 3,000 to 5,000 individuals coming from all around the world, they need to see what's happening in Bahrain. And the summits and the events such as Unreasonable Thinking Summit is one of the things that we are all proud of. So of course, Tamkeen will always be here to support events like this.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We heard several presentations yesterday. And we heard the word innovation being thrown out. We heard the word disruption being spoken about. Various kinds of buzzwords are being thrown around. And if I were to summarize these words into a single word, we're talking about change. Change. Mark, I want to start with you, put you on the spot, as I did in our last panel discussion. I seem to enjoy picking on you for some reason.
Yeah, thanks.
So you're in the digital transformation field.
Right.
How in danger are current corporates, and how in danger are they, and to what degree are they realizing it? Am I making sense? Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're probably banging on their doors saying you don't get it. Are they opening the door and hugging you and welcoming you in? Or are they saying, come on, what are you talking about? I mean, tell us about that.
Okay, so you've absolutely struck the area that I want to talk about and I enjoy talking about. So yeah, happy to be put on the spot about this. So yeah, how in danger are incumbent corporates? Incredibly in danger. I have this urgency, this anxiety that I feel in the pit of my stomach, and I know what change is coming, what change has already happened that we're not adapting to in this region, but specifically in this country. There's a huge amount of PR around digital transformation because it's great to be changing, but the actual act of change is scary because it's huge. Like to digitally transform a company is not to put a new layer of technology onto old business models. It is to completely shake up the culture of the business and change how that business is working. 9 out of 10 businesses that I come across are still essentially looking at internal resources that they have and saying, what can we do with these internal resources to make money? And that needs to be completely turned on its head. So it's saying, what do our customers need? What do our users require? And what resources do we need to invest in in order to provide that. It's a completely different way of thinking, and it needs an entirely different skill set, a different way of approaching business entirely, and a different way of thinking about digital. I mean, so I've been put on the spot. By show of hands here, who has invested in digital processes in the last, say, 1 or 2 years with the expectation of seeing the benefit of that change occur in the next 10 years' time?
Okay.
Which is great, and it's fantastic to see that some people have.
Was that 2 in the audience?
That was approximately 3.
Okay, and
4.
and one of them is a father and son team, so I think we can count that as 1.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, and it's fantastic, but we're so used to seeing, like, digital, you know, being this immediate change, you know? We put a post up on Instagram, and we have 100 likes. Great, you know? But what does that mean to the business?
Meaningless. It's meaningless.
I think there's a magazine that's just come out recently, and I saw someone tweeted about it, and it shows 15 government entities that all say that they have digitally transformed, and we should be communicating with them online. Out of the 15 government agencies, 3 replied with an auto-reply. The rest of them, there was no response, or it said the mailbox was full. And see, this is the problem. The technology's been integrated, and Bahrain.bh is fantastic. Sigilat, like all of it, is great. But the processes haven't changed in the background. And so the needs aren't being fulfilled.
Mark, some of them haven't changed since like 1960. You know,
Exactly.
I won't say which government organization we are dealing with, but they only deal in letters that you mail or hand deliver.
Yeah, and
right?
look, the last thing I want to do...
There is no email address.
No.
And, you know, I have no words to describe. So is it fair to assume that they're not taking it seriously, the threat of digital transformation?
No, not at all. And I think that, you know... There are so many businesses that especially in Bahrain, you know, if you are a distributor, if you're an automotive distributor, the likelihood of Porsche moving from Bebahani to another of the families is fairly unlikely. And so that sense of competition, that sense of fear, is less acute than it would be in a city where you might have 3 or 4 dealerships, where you have to make sure that you are, you know, really on top of your game and providing your customers with exactly what they want. So I think that we have a false sense of being shielded from what the rest of the world is going through. But yeah, I feel this urgency, and I want to project that onto other people and to get them as anxious and urgent as I am to get moving with this stuff, because it's not going to happen easily. The change is not going to happen quickly for the business.
And if you don't prepare now, you're going to pay the price later.
Exactly.
Sikiyama-san, you're on the forefront. Give me a second, please. You're on the forefront. You're probably, or you're already the disruptor, not the disruptee, right? Because you're probably going to disrupt Kashmir industry, polyester industry, and God knows how many industries you're going to decimate, you know? How does it feel? Do you look forward to disrupting everyone? Are you excited? Do you feel sorry for them? Give us the perspective of the disruptor rather than the disruptee.
I think I feel, yeah, I feel honestly, I do not want to disrupt existing industry, because we respect the existing industry and cashmere material, wool, and petroleum, and so we just only we would like to offer the just one option to we can choose. So But but I think the protein material, like our spider silks or the cashmere-like material, that is very useful for the society in this generation. So, but there's no technology to realize, to make that material. So I would like to develop this technology. But honestly, I do not disrupt the existing industry, and hopefully we want to coexist with them. Yeah.
So if I may maybe rephrase or paraphrase what you said, and I love what you said. We don't want to, and we want. So you're coming from an angle of respect and compassion, and it's a little bit counter to the Silicon Valley attitude we've seen, which is the gung ho, destroy everything in front of you. You know, we're the digital pirates. We're going to do this, and we're going to. You're coming in from a place of deep respect and compassion. And in fact, you're going to license out your technology, which probably is your way of contributing rather than competing with it. So I respect that. It's a beautiful answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ahmed, back to you. In Tamkeen, you're seeing the whole landscape. You're seeing the big corporates, you're seeing the banks, you're seeing especially the startups. As Bahrain, are we digitally prepared? Are we going in the right direction? What is your observation on that?
So let me start by saying that I think the biggest mistake that could happen in the market is that the companies, the corporates, the startups, they would believe that somebody like myself sitting in an office and getting my salary at the end of the month would go and tell them what's the right way to do. And that's the biggest problem that we have in Bahrain, is that they expect somebody will come from outside the organization that they own, that they run, that they manage, and will tell them exactly how to do it and where to do it and when to do it. And that's a challenge that we have, honestly. I think the bigger mistake is that me believing it and going out lecturing about it. So that would be a bigger mistake again. From what I see from my interaction with the market, I think our market is ready, but it always lacks that kind of motivation, understanding, and first movers. It always comes with first movers. If we talk about our market 10 years back and our market today, we can see digitally some kind of changes that happened. We are not first movers around the world, if we want to compare ourselves to the other countries. Even speaking about the government level. If we talk about Estonia, for example, what does Estonia have? It's the digital transformation that put Estonia on the map of the world.
They're at least 10 years ahead of us. We had a lady from Estonia. We had a lady from Estonia here last year. She spoke about digital transformation. Yeah.
Of course, Estonia, compared to the rest of the world, it does not have the oil that we have. It does not have, not even the other financial resources that we have. But they've managed to put themselves on the map of the world because of their digital transformation. And I don't think your company is way more difficult or harder or bigger or more sophisticated than a government like the Estonian government. There is always a way if we want to do it. We can't say we're not ready. Again, let's see what happened post the war in the East Europe at the beginning of 1990s. And within 10 years of that, Estonia became the Estonia that we know. And that's like 15 years ago. Where are we today compared to that? So I don't think we have any excuse. I can't lecture much about it. I think you guys need to do the first move, not us.
And what's fascinating about Estonia is because it was a brand new country, they started with a clean slate. There's no baggage. You know, you're starting a country and you have a blank slate, and you can design it the way you want. And what they did is, I think Finland or one of the other countries was going to donate their old phone network to them, and they said, no, we're going to invest in the latest. We're going to leapfrog everybody else. So they had no legacy issues.
But even if you think about the financial requirements that the Estonian government needed in the past 20 years, compared to many other governments that are smaller than Estonia, it's peanuts. So It's not costly as we thought it is in the long run. It's not hard as we thought it is. What are the requirements that what are the prerequisites that they actually checked until that happened? I can't see anything but willingness that made them where they are today.
Fantastic. So fundamentally it comes down to the right mindset.
Exactly.
Victor, you're the social disruptor on this panel, right? So you, as someone who wants to do some social disruption, if we want to call it that, right? And you started your Peace Club at the age of 13, the first one, if I'm not mistaken. And you're doing now work within your country and you're doing work outside of the country. How accepting is the youth to your message? Do you notice that since you started till today, is it improving? Is it getting worse? What are, from a social disruptor's perspective, and I'm inventing this term, I think, what are your observations in terms of acceptability from the youth and the wider stakeholders around you?
Yes, thank you very much. Not to move away from what my colleagues talked about, I think even from the very first point you talked about was the issue of change, endangerment, disruption. These are rhetorics that concerns everybody else. But when we look for an opportunity to create change, how do we not create an environment of fear in the name of change? Because if people feel threatened by change, then nobody's safe at the end of the day. But we're saying, how can we pursue change without planting seeds of destruction? I think this is where we socially get to understand, get to embrace that while we pursue change, we can only pursue by planting the seeds of unity, the seeds of togetherness, so that at the end of the day, we can coexist, like my brother talked about it very well. So I think it's an area to look more into. But the big picture is, where are you in the picture of change? That's the question that we should ask. You talked about it earlier on as well. We should ask ourselves, we talk about change, where are we in the picture of change? Are we going to be on the one chanting for destruction or chanting for coexistence? It's like when we talk about political change, you look towards young people. They're the energy you need for change. They're the energy you need for transformation. But there's one taking young people to the street, and then who controls them in the street? Are they the destructors? Are they the destroyers? Are they the demolition crew? Or you are putting them in a way that as you go to the street, we are going to chant for what we believe in, coexistence, peace, and unity and stability. So to me, the concept of change is being embraced so fast, but in a way, people misinterpret the vision. If visions are clear upfront, then a vision well interpreted is a good opportunity for positive change. But a vision misinterpreted can mean disasters for the society.
Amazing. Okay, so as an angel investor as well, one of the things that angel investors look for is if a new concept can scale. I'm still talking to you, Victor. If it can scale. Scaling up is so important. And yesterday someone mentioned something about China, where China, you already have a market. Just one city has 80 million people that you can scale up to, you know? How do you scale a peace message? How do you scale what you do? Are you using any technological platforms, or is it one person from one person at a time? What is your scale-up process or philosophy or plan?
Yes, the scale-up process should take into account the population online and population offline. Mm-hmm. Too soon, we are too quick to declare we are covered because few people are making noise from a country online, yet majority are offline. Right. So while we appreciate technological advancement and revolution, we should not forget to bring even the rest of the population may not have access. They lack education, they lack electricity, they lack understanding on how to do this kind of thing. So in a way, we try to make sure that let's take advantage of technology and embrace the positive element of technology in a way that will deliver the messages to the population offline. But also, can we use the platform to amplify the voices of the voiceless in the community. Because this is where the engines for destruction comes from. If they are the consumers of the information, so what is brought to them is how they assume, how they accept it, and how they act on. But if we say we seek collective, holistic change, we need to embrace the fact that majority are still offline. With the minority online, can we take that as an opportunity to reach out to all? But of course, look into the future of the world we live in, the division. If you talk about in the range of 1 to 10, Africa as a continent, in terms of technology, probably the world is already level 8 and 9 and 10, but Africa might be in level 1 or not yet even 1. So what revolution is needed in the continent? What revolution is needed in Africa to bring the majority of the population who are still behind in terms of technology? The world has gone into robotics, but most African, even universities, doesn't have computers. So this is how bad it gets. But we cannot say they are not changing. They're changing, but how can we take them forward without feeling offended? Why are we left behind? Why is everybody? But also, maybe a point I should make here is, the world is advancing towards electric cars. And where are the materials for making the electric cars? Batteries. They are in Africa, in Congo. The cobalt that the world needs to make the electric car batteries are in Congo. But where are the Congolese in the picture? So I think it should come with a point of responsibility. Responsible business would mean we care for humanity, we care for human face. Technology should not be a reason to replace humanity. Humanity should drive technology. It's like holding weapons at hand, but the heart you have in that body holding the weapons matters how you use the weapons at hand.
Fantastic, well said. I want to do a quick round and then open to the audience. As briefly as you can, start with you again, Mark. What excites you and what scares you about the future?
I think seeing the growth of interest in sustainability, circular economies, and seeing how the disruption and using technology can be used in a positive way. Seeing that the environment is being considered within that growth. You talk about scaling, and I think it's incredibly important to look at sustainable scaling. There's no point scaling a business if it's going to destroy the world that we live in. And so I'm incredibly excited to see the growth of sustainability and, as I say, circular economies particularly. What scares me is that it's not fast enough. Kind of where we're at in the world, where we're in a situation where by 2050 there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than sea life. And I think it's supposed to be before then as well. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? None of what we're doing matters if we don't have a planet to live on, or if our kids don't have a planet to live on. So yeah, there's where my fear is. But I'm very positive about seeing people using technology to develop sustainable methodologies to scale.
Well, the answer to your question, we're all going to live on Mars, so it's easy.
Of course,
and
so
then we'll destroy Mars, and we'll go to another planet.
Keep moving on. Yeah, we'll be fine.
Sikiyama-san, what excites you and what scares you?
Scale? Yeah, I think my job is developing the new material. However, this is just means to contribute to the society and for the peace. So I really would like to scale the message of the peace or the because the sustainability is just the way, just the means to realize the peace or eliminate the war or conflicts.
Excellent. Ahmed.
So if I may share the answer through a quick story.
Sure.
So I have a friend who just retired, early retirement, and he was sharing with us a problem that he has at home. His problem is whenever he talks to his wife, she can't hear him properly. And he was seeking some advice. One of the guys who sits with us in that gathering is he who studied medicine. ENT specifically. So he said, I can help you, but I need one thing from you. He said, what? So the doctor told him, if you go home, I need to know the distance, the farthest distance between you and your wife, where she can hear you. How can I do that? When you go home, talk to her. Stand like 25 feet away. If she hears you, come and tell me. If she doesn't, go 5 feet closer. Clear? He went home. He was about 25 feet away from her. He asked her, what are you cooking today? She was cooking. He did not hear an answer. So he went 5 feet closer. It was 20 feet away. Asked her again, what are you cooking today? What do you have for lunch? No answer. Let me cut it short because I don't have much time. So he was 5 feet away from her. He asked her again, what are you cooking today? What are we having for lunch? So she responded, this is the 4th time I tell you we're having majboos. What was the problem? I think the biggest problem that we have with technology today is lack of awareness, adaptability, and decisiveness toward what we actually want. I think technology has always provided opportunities for us. We need to adapt, of course. Things will change, things will not remain. But the biggest fear is with us, is not with somebody else beyond us.
And the ability to listen,
of course,
is such a scarce skill. It fascinates me how very few people actually listen. There's a difference from hearing and listening with intent, as Stephen Covey used to say. Victor, what excites you, what scares you?
I get excited to see that around the world, the usually small nations are stepping forward to do big stuff.
Can you name an example in the Gulf?
Bahrain.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I think I deserve the clap.
I think that audacity, the feeling that I'm not too small to do big work, is really what we need to step forward and do it. Individually, we have to step forward. The nations like this can stand up and be the brightest stars in the region. And I'm very happy about that. So this is really where hope is. I'm looking forward to the young generations who doesn't feel too small anymore, but to step forward with confidence, with love and courage and good vision. What scares the hell out of me? Yes, there's that. I think the world is becoming too quick to appreciate technology over humanity. Mm-hmm. Technology is replacing humanity. We are soon manufacturing children in laboratory, which is really, that's really what's going to happen. Soon we are going to disregard maybe a gender. We are going to disregard the generation. But it would be a very unique experience for the world to succeed with a divided generation. I would hope that we don't let technology replace humanity. This is where I'm scared, this is where I'm afraid, because if you send robots to go and fight war, robots doesn't have the heart of humanity. It will shoot and kill any moving stuff, whether it be dogs, a child who knows nothing to do with politics. Usually the war used to be fought one-on-one. You would see that I am killing the hedge mate of my grandchild, but now you're sending robots from hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. So technology is replacing humanity. That's my biggest fear.
Thank you, that's amazing. Thank you so much. We have a few minutes for questions. Any questions? We have in the front here, if we can bring a mic to the lip, just put up your hand high. Ma'am, hi, that's not high. Hi, like this, yeah, there you go. Okay, can we send a mic to her? And if we have the mics here, can someone grab a mic from the table? I think we have some mics here. Did we see her?
So, hello everyone. As we know, the virtual CRs in Bahrain was introduced around 2 years now. My question to Tamkeen, we heard in the news that there are upcoming schemes to support virtual CRs. So if you can give us a glimpse, as well as my second part of the question, I read in the news that the aim for supporting virtual CRs is to transform them from a virtual CR into a normal physical organization. So going by the spirit of this summit, do you think this is the reasonable thinking of growing a virtual CR into a normal organization? So do you think this aims supporting the digitalization of Bahrain? And why you think virtual CR should be converted to a normal CR instead of supporting more virtual and instead of
Good. If we can just summarize, so your question is about virtual CRs and transforming virtual CRs into regular CRs.
Yeah, so why a normal virtual CR with less overhead, so reduced fees, should be converted to a normal organization with more overheads?
Question is clear, and for those, our guests, a virtual CR is a virtual commercial registration or business license here in Bahrain. So for someone to start a business, they can do a virtual business license or commercial registration. I don't know if this is something that you want to answer or you want to, okay, go ahead.
So I'll not talk about the virtual CRs themselves because that's the ministry role to talk about it. I'll talk about the tamkeen support, which is exactly what you asked about. So it's been almost a year now since the launch of the virtual CRs. We took our time because of multiple limitations in terms of understanding what the virtual CRs needs. Again, I'll go back to a point that I mentioned as a comment in the first question that Suhail asked me. We are not here to lead the market, which is a misunderstanding that's in the market today. Tamkeen tells the market what to do. We are not here to tell the market what to do. We are here to support and enable the market. And that's something we're trying to be very clear about every single time we meet with the public. So yes, we've been studying how can we support the virtual CRs. Hopefully within 2 weeks from today, actually less than 2 weeks from today, we'll be announcing exactly what is our support for the virtual CRs. It will be a lot in the area of the digitization, as we're talking about that now. We'll be supporting that a lot, especially for the virtual CRs. We don't have the intention of transforming the virtual CRs into actual CRs, although that's a plus. We do believe it's a plus because there are many limitations on the virtual CRs today in terms of recruitment, providing jobs opportunities, etc. That's why Tamkeen always puts a priority for the actual CRs, for the actual business license that we have today, because of that kind of advantage it has over the virtual CRs. That's the only thing. If you want to ask about the rules and regulations of the virtual CRs, as Suhail mentioned, that would be the role of the Ministry of Commerce to respond.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? We have a lady in the back in the green hijab. If we make yourself known again. صدتيها سمر عرفتيها؟ Yeah, okay. And sorry, alaykum assalam. If we can make it brief, if we can make the question brief. Thank you.
When we will close the gap between the being a user of the technology and creating of the technology. Mr. Siniyaki, he talked about producing, and Mr. Moran talks about applying the technology.
Is this question to either of them or to?
Or to yourself, please.
I wish I paid more attention to what the question was. When
no.
I think I got the question.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we are used to be consuming of clothes, of food, right. Of everything.
I got it.
And now of technology. We have to start thinking about producing technology. This is my
I think you asked, honestly speaking, I think you asked the best question of the morning, or probably of this summit, because there is a huge, huge gap. We are fundamental consumers. If you look at some of the big airlines, they buy these huge, huge planes. In the Middle East, we have the largest airline networks now, the most efficient, but we don't make the planes. We create something like Kareem. We have Kareem here, which is the equivalent of Uber and so on, but we don't make the technology that makes the app. We don't make the phones that uses the app. We are still fundamentally consumers and users, and we need to be creators of technology. I agree 100%. We are not investing enough in R&D and in education. We're investing in education, but we're not teaching our kids how to think. Second, the government, in my view, not that I'm someone who should give the government advice, but must invest in R&D for R&D's sake. We see this happening in the West. look at what we just saw from Sekiyama-san, the institutes that are investing in technology. The impact program, it was, I forget what it was for, but disruptive technology and so on. We don't have this. We don't have an institution that invests in technology for investing in technology's sake. We need to have this. And unless we start doing that, unless we have big budgets for this, unless we invest in our people in this, and unless we have long-term horizons, because from when a technology first is developed to it becoming mainstream is about 30 years. The stuff that we see today is something that happened 30 years ago that makes it possible. And unless we do that, we will never become leaders in technology, ever. We will forever be a third world nation or a third world region until we realize the importance of investment in technology and R&D. So there you go. Good. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take one more question, a little bit behind schedule. Last chance? Good, we're good. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you. Can we take a group photo together, please? Good. Please, Hayakum. Just leave it. It's all right. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mashkoor, Hayyee. Mashkoor. Thanks for all your support, Hayyee. My Gassart. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Wise as usual. Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So it is now time for our break. We are supposed to start with the breakouts at 11:30, which is in 8 minutes, which we will not be able to do. Can we ask you all to be in the breakout session at 11:36? 11:36, can we start? So we're going to start 6 minutes late. The breakout sessions are going to be in the back. And I want everybody back in here, if we can, by 1 p.m. Okay, so we would like you to be back here by 1 p.m. We'll start 11:36 in the breakouts. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys later.